Everyone says a man should bury his past and move on, but we know the truth is never that simple. Today is the story of Silas Mercer, where grief didn't just scar a man, it reshaped him. Out here in the lonely mountain west, everything began with one small choice: opening a cabin door in the middle of a snowstorm. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Ever had a woman stare at you like you were already buried, just waiting for the earth to settle on top? I have. That cold November dawn, when I found them fading in the snow, an old Apache woman and her daughter, I caught it in the girl's eyes. She looked at me like I was already dead, like I was another ghost passing through her life. She'd watched too many men spill their blood or swing from a rope because of her. And there I was, riding straight towards the same damn end. The old woman seized my coat, her fingers hard, and frozen iron wrapped in skin. "Please," she murmured, blood wetting her mouth. "My daughter needs a man who won't die for her." A strange thing for a dying woman to ask of a stranger. Stranger still, I knew exactly what she meant. I'd been hiding in that cabin for 6 brutal winters. 6 years since the mountains claimed Silas Mercer and my little Maeve whole, while I drowned myself in cheap whiskey and bitter talk with men who didn't matter. And now 2 half-frozen souls stood at my door, offering me the one thing I'd buried deeper than my wife and child. Redemption, maybe. Or another grave waiting on my name. Maybe you'd have turned away. But standing there in that storm, staring at a girl whose beauty was sharp as a loaded pistol, I made a choice. One that would either pull me back to life or finish what grief had started. I carried the old woman inside. She weighed no more than my rifle. Her daughter followed silent as drifting smoke. When I glanced back, those dark eyes were fixed on me, cutting straight through flesh and bone. "There's soup," I said, nodding toward the pot. "And blankets." The girl, Naya, her mother called her, moved beside the old woman with practiced hands, calm and careful. When she reached for the ladle, her worn dress drew tight across her frame, and I turned away fast. 6 years I'd trained myself to see a woman's shape as nothing more than shadow and wood grain. "You're not what I expected," she said. Her English was clean, almost refined, though Apache thunder rolled beneath every word. "What did you expect?" I answered. "A man alone this long usually stares. I split a log harder than needed. I've stared enough at things I can't keep. Once you lose everything you learn to look away from what might matter. It's safer that way. Cleaner." Problem was Naya was the kind of woman a man couldn't forget, even if he tried. The fever broke on the 3rd day. The old woman's name was Kiona. Hearing it struck something in me. It echoed too close to the creek where Elin died, close enough to feel like fate mocking me. She pulled me aside while Naya bathed in the stream behind the cabin. "You think I'm cruel?" she said, voice thin but steady, giving my daughter like property. "I think you're a mother doing what mothers do." Her grip closed around my wrist strength, still burning in those dying fingers. "Look at her. Truly look. You see beauty, but do you see the curse tied to it?" Through the window I watched Naya in the water, sunlight sliding over bronze skin, long black hair slicked down her back. She moved unaware of any eyes on her, and that honesty made it worse. 2 men died fighting over her, Kiona said. 3 more were wounded. The Stone Creek elders said she disrupted the natural balance. She coughed, wet and painful. "She is not evil," Kiona went on, "but beauty like hers makes good men forget who they are. It makes them kill." "She isn't evil," Kiona said, her voice thin but unyielding. "But beauty like hers turns good men crooked. It makes them forget wives, walk away from duty, put knives in the hands of friends." Her eyes burned into mine. "And you think you're any different? You're already a walking corpse, Silas Mercer. Let's see if you're dead enough inside that her beauty won't finish you." That's a hell of a thing to hear from a dying woman. But she wasn't wrong. I'd been haunting my own life for 6 long years. Maybe that was exactly what Naya needed, a man who'd already survived his own ending. That night, Naya cooked venison with wild onions. She moved through the cabin like it had always belonged to her, hips shifting as she stirred the pot, calm and sure. When she bent to tend the fire, her dress slipped enough to show the curve of her throat, the shadow where her collarbones met. I caught myself remembering what it felt like to want something. "Tell me about them," she said suddenly. "About who my hand locked around the whiskey bottle. Your wife, your child." I didn't answer right away. "The way you look at me," she went on, "like I might vanish. Like you've already buried me." She sat across from me close enough that I caught the scent of sage in her hair. I took a long pull of whiskey. It burned clean. "Elin was good," I said. "Pure good. And Maeve would be 8 by now." Same laugh as her mother. The words felt sharp just saying them. "I was supposed to be there," I went on. "Instead, I was drinking with the shift bosses, arguing about safety rules like they mattered. If you had been where you belonged," Naya said softly, "you wouldn't be sitting here. Maybe that would have been better." She leaned forward then. Her hand covered mine, warm, calloused from work, but gentle where it counted. "My first suitor was Caleb Rourke," she said. "A kind boy. 17. Her fingers tightened. He killed his own brother over me. Skinning knife. Sunday dinner." She paused before continuing. "The second was a warrior named Rask. He tried to take me from a peace gathering, started a fight that turned into war. 12 men died." She met my eyes without flinching. "I know what it's like to carry death that follows you. The difference is you weren't even there." That cut deeper than blame. I pulled my hand away, though not before noticing how perfectly her fingers had fit between mine. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because my mother is dying," Naya said quietly. "And when she's gone, you'll have to decide what to do with me. I want you to know what you're choosing." Outside, the wind threaded through the pines. Inside, silence settled between us, the kind that either mends a man or finishes breaking him. There's a moment in every life where the next word decides whether you live or just keep breathing until the end. I looked at Naya then. Beautiful. Dangerous. A woman who'd watched men die because they wanted her, turn her away, stay empty, stay safe, or choose to live again, knowing it might cost me everything. Kiona died on a Tuesday morning, quiet as snow giving up to spring. Naya didn't cry. She sat beside her mother, braiding and unbraiding strands of gray hair until I rested a hand on her shoulder. "We'll bury her on the hill," I said, "next to my family." "You don't have to." "Yes," I said. "I do." We dug the grave together, breaking frozen ground by lantern light as night closed in around us. Naya slipped off her coat as the work warmed her sweat, darkening the hollow of her throat. Her blouse clung to her damp and tight. I told myself not to look. Did anyway. "What happens now?" Naya asked when the last stone was set in place. When her tongue brushed mine, 6 years of restraint cracked clean through. Inside, she murmured against my lips. The cabin felt different now, smaller, alive, humming with something sharp and electric. Naya crossed to the hearth and added wood, her hands steady. When she turned back, there was resolve in her eyes. "You need to understand," she said. "This isn't gratitude. I'm not paying a debt." "Then what is it?" She bent and began unlacing her boots, each motion measured. "It's a woman choosing a man she trusts not to die for her." The boots came off, then the stockings. Her bare feet were pale against the wood floor. I stood there barely breathing as she reached for the buttons of her blouse. 6 years, she said quietly, working them loose. 6 years you've punished yourself for being human, for wanting to live when they didn't. The blouse fell open. Beneath the thin cotton, her shape was clear, undeniable. The rise of her chest, the strength beneath softness. "You don't have to," I said. "I know." The fabric slipped from her shoulders. "That's why I want to." Firelight painted her skin gold as she stood before me. I didn't just see beauty. I saw courage, the kind it takes to choose knowing the cost, the kind it takes to trust a broken man with something sacred. I closed the distance in 3 strides. My hands found her waist. She was warm, solid, alive. When I kissed her, it carried 6 years of hunger and loneliness breaking loose. She answered me without hesitation. Fingers digging into my shoulders, her body pressed tight to mine. We went down together onto the blankets, limbs tangled, breaths and confessions spilling into the dark. Her skin tasted of sage and smoke. When my mouth traced the line of her throat, the curve of her chest, the slope of her belly, she arched beneath me a sound, leaving her that cracked something open in my chest. "Please," she whispered. That single word undid the last of me. I moved into her, like a man stepping into warm water after years of cold, and for the first time in a long while I wasn't a ghost anymore. She hooked her heels behind my back, her nails carving half-moons into my shoulders. Her breath stuttered every time I moved. It wasn't gentle, and it wasn't rough either, just something that had to happen. Like breathing after holding your lungs tight for 6 damn years. In that moment, I stopped being a ghost. I was a man again, alive, wanting, scared, stiff, and grateful all at once. Afterward, we lay tangled near the dying fire, her head resting on my chest, my fingers lost in her hair. Outside, the storm clawed at the cabin walls. Inside, we'd found something close to peace. Funny thing is, I'd spent 6 years convinced I didn't deserve happiness. Thought it was something meant for men who hadn't failed their families. But lying there with Naya, I finally understood. Happiness isn't a medal you earn for good behavior. It's a choice you make every morning, feeling the sun hit your face and not asking forgiveness for it. Spring came late that year, but it came carrying promises. Naya moved through the cabin with quiet grace, turning my hiding place into a home. She planted a garden, stitched my torn shirts, filled the silence with stories from her childhood. And it was the small things that undid me. The way she hummed while cooking, her voice low and steady. The way she rose on her toes to kiss me goodbye. When I went to check traps, her body pressed against mine. The sight of her washing clothes in the creek sunlight, breaking on the water, and her skin. "You're staring again?" she said one morning, catching me watching as she kneaded bread dough. "Can't help it." She smiled, flour dusting her cheeks. "Good. I was starting to wonder if you were getting tired of me." "Never." She set the dough aside and walked over, that unthinking sway in her step, making my mouth go dry. When she reached me, she placed her flour-dusted hands on my chest. "Show me," she whispered. I did. I lifted her onto the table and kissed her until she gasped, her skirts bunching at her waist as I stepped between her legs. When she wrapped them around me and pulled me close, the world narrowed down to nothing but her. I forgot everything except the taste of her skin and the sound of my name on her lips. It was later, when we lay tangled in my bed, that she told me about the baby. "How long have you known?" I asked, my hand resting on her belly. "A few weeks," she said. "I wanted to be sure. A child. After everything I'd lost, everything I'd told myself I didn't deserve, life was offering me another chance." "You're scared," Naya said. "Terrified." She turned in my arms, studying my face. "Of losing us. Of failing you. Of not being there when you need me most." Her expression softened. You didn't fail them. You can't be everywhere. You can't protect everyone. She guided my hand back to her belly. But you can be here now. You can choose to believe this time will be different. And if it's not, then we face it together. She covered my hand with hers. This baby isn't a replacement. It's something new, something that belonged only to us. The baby came in early autumn, small and perfect and loud with life. I held him, our son, with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Naya watched from the bed, worn thin but glowing dark hair damp against her temples. "What do we call him?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Jonah," she said. "His name should mean hope." And it did. That boy was proof the world wasn't finished with me yet. Proof a man could claw his way out of his own grave and still have something worth holding. The High Ridge folk came around in time. Some whispered. That was expected. But whispers never stood a chance against what we'd built. Our love was forged in loss and hardened by understanding. On Jonah Mercer's first birthday, we stood together on the hill where both women rested, Elin Mercer and Kiona, my first wife, Naya's mother. She held our son while I laid wildflowers across the stones. "Do you think they would have approved?" Naya asked. I looked at my wife we'd married quietly that spring, and at our boy with her dark eyes and my stubborn jaw. The weight I'd carried for years had changed into something else entirely. Gratitude, for the chance to love again, for permission to build something good from ashes. "I think they would have wanted us happy," I said. We walked back towards the cabin, Jonah babbling in his mother's arms, and I thought about the choices that brought us there. Helping two strangers in a storm. Choosing love again, knowing the risk. Believing redemption was possible even for a man who once thought himself dead. Here's what I learned. Healing isn't about erasing scars. It's about letting them remind you that you lived, that you broke and still stood back up. Some folks say I got lucky, say Naya saved me. But that's not the whole truth. We saved each other. Two people who'd seen death follow beauty. Two souls carrying guilt that never truly belonged to them. The cabin still stands on that ridge. Smoke still rises into clean mountain air. Inside, there's a woman who chose to trust a broken man, and a boy who'll grow up knowing his father understands the weight of second chances. Sometimes salvation comes wearing the face of your deepest fear. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is choose hope. My story doesn't end perfect. Life never does. But it ends with me standing in the evening light, watching Naya teach our son to walk, feeling something I thought I'd lost forever. It ends with me alive. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. Thank you for listening, and for allowing this story to speak to your heart. The Wild West still holds countless truths, some painful, some tender, all worth remembering. Stay with us. Subscribe, comment, and invite others to discover these untamed stories. From our hearts to yours. Thank you for being part of this journey. Aviso Legal Bara Disclaimer. Each story shared here is produced for storytelling enjoyment. Certain scenes may include fictional or dramatized elements inspired by historical circumstances. Although AI tools assist us in visuals narration and script development, the emotional tone, editing, and quality control are conducted by people to ensure meaningful experiences. We fully uphold YouTube's policies, using no deceptive recreations or impersonations of real individuals. All creative resources are properly licensed. Unauthorized copying, re-uploading, or remixing is not permitted. Thank you for supporting the effort behind every episode we create.